Welcome back to our fourth episode of The Road to Success. We are very thankful to have Mrs. Jane Allen on the show, the CEO of the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, a nonprofit connecting entrepreneurs with critical resources to create, launch, and grow businesses, and the co-founder of Hanner Clarke Handbags, a luxury Italian leather handbag line made in LA. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you so much. So how did you initially become interested in entrepreneurism?
Well, boys, the reality is back when I first started thinking about doing something different, there really wasn't a term entrepreneur or entrepreneurism, or if there was, I didn't know about it. I was actually a lawyer practicing law and saw a lot of women leaving the profession and thought these are really bright, capable people, and there should be a way to keep them engaged in the profession when what I call life intervenes, whether that's children, whether that's caring for your family, your parents. And I just felt there should be a way to keep them engaged. And at the same time, I looked at the law firm model and thought you have a variable client base and a static hiring base. And so maybe there's a way to connect these two challenges to create an opportunity. And so that was the idea. And it was really just solving what I thought was a problem for a few people that I knew. And with that, Counsel on Call was born, which was actually my first company. And we started in 2000, but probably started thinking about it in 1997.
Okay, so what was your motivation behind Hanner Clarke Handbags then when you were creating that?
Sure. That one was I had actually sold a majority of Counsel on Call to a private equity firm. And for years, I had been looking for a handbag that I wanted in my brain to be able to carry that could go from boardroom to football game. And I wanted it to be professional yet feminine, to be able to put it, I traveled a lot, so I wanted it to be able to fit under an airplane seat and not fall over. And yet at the same time, I wanted it to be able to go onto my shoulder without hitting my elbow. And so, so that as I was talking to people, it wasn't a distraction. And finally, my sister, who had been the dean of the University of Georgia Law School, she retired about the same time as I was going through this transition from Counsel on Call. And so just decided, why not start something, or why not create this bag that I've dreamt up for years and she had been out searching for years. And so that was really the motivation. Again, just solving a problem that I had experienced as a professional woman that traveled and went from boardrooms to boys' football games and girls' volleyball games.
Very cool, yeah. So how did you become involved with the Nashville Entrepreneur Center?
Sure. When the Nashville Entrepreneur Center started, I was deep in the throes of building a business and really didn't know a lot about it. But several years ago, a few friends of mine who I respect, and I would say professional colleagues, were on the board. And so they started talking with me about the EC, and Greg and I just always donated money because we remembered when we were starting out, just calling entrepreneurs and asking if they would meet with me and brainstorm and help me think more like a business person and less like a lawyer in some ways. But understanding how to take an idea into a business and then how to take a business and continuously grow it. And so it really was for me a way of paying it forward. In that it was a way to make a financial donation to a local nonprofit that was basically doing for this community what individuals had done for Greg and myself. And so that had been my involvement. And then when they were looking for a leader, they called. And, I guess it was just timing. And, my answer was, what does success look like? Because I always start with the end game and work backwards. Even when I was a lawyer, I started with jury instructions and worked backwards. And so what does success look like? And based on their answer, it got me thinking, well, maybe I am the right person at the right time. But honestly, just a lot of prayer and a lot of discussion with Elizabeth and my husband. and the boys, and deciding that, yes, why not? Let's try it. And hopefully I can leave it a little better than I found it, and hopefully do a little good and maybe have a little fun.
Yeah. So tell us about some of your experiences helping local entrepreneurs through the Entrepreneur Center. Like, what resources and advice did you give them?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is it's been in business for 10 years, and it's a local nonprofit, and it has amazing resources. And so everything from programs, and so 84% of the companies that come through our high touch programs are still employing people and doing well today, which is an unbelievable stat compared to normal. And then at the same time, being able to connect people to other individuals. And then also we have a variety of nonprofits in our community that all work with different types of entrepreneurs. And so prior to my arrival, they had spent time going out and getting to know what they did really well. So if somebody comes to the Entrepreneur Center, we may not be the right resource, but we know other resources for them. And so we're able to navigate them to those other resources. And then creating a community where you have real collaborative problem solvers, little risk takers, because that's what entrepreneurs are. And then also just having speakers come in, people who have been there and done it and have walked in their shoes. So at the end of the day, it's about leveling the playing field, and we are here for the entire community and the entire entrepreneurial community, and being able to connect them to whatever resource they need wherever they are on the path. And we're also here for the entire entrepreneurial journey. So, someone like your father, he's an entrepreneur. And so, but being able to allow him to come and be around peer groups, and then also entrepreneurs that haven't yet sold and haven't sold to a competitor or gone to private equity or investment and haven't hired an investment banker, and how do you know how to navigate that process? And so just putting panels together, and then again, helping those earlier stage too. So we've got what we call the life cycle of an entrepreneur, and it's 4 stages, and being able to provide connections and resources for entrepreneurs wherever they are in that life cycle.
Great. So what are some mistakes you wish you could have avoided when starting as an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a great question. There's so many. In some ways, for me personally, probably thinking too small, because I really felt if I could help 5 women that I knew in Nashville be able to stay in the practice of law, and then I was successful. And then thankfully, I was very blessed to be married to a gentleman who has the MBA from Wharton, who is a financial guy. And he was very clear about, you're onto something that's much bigger than you have any idea about. And so since it was my spouse, I challenged and questioned all of that. But in the end game, he was right. And so, I think for me, it would probably be, I thought too small. I didn't realize what we would really be able to become. And then, other things is just sometimes some of the friction, and that was so unnecessary because, I just knew I had the right answer. And you quickly become humble and realize you want to surround yourself with people who are so much smarter and really complement your weaknesses. And then you want to really listen to them, and then, think about it, and then take the path that you really think is best for the organization.
Yeah, I'm sure you've probably seen some people who've come in with an idea, but they're kind of scared to pursue it. So do you have any advice for others that have a business idea but are too afraid to pursue it because of that risk?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually created at the EC, and that was one reason. So you think you want to be an entrepreneur, because right now entrepreneurship is hot, and you have Shark Tank and all of that. And honestly, and I don't know if I can speak for your father, I can only speak for me. It's a very difficult, time consuming, all consuming. Always said I have 5 kids, and the whiniest was by far the business. I was blessed with amazing children, and which allowed us to really give time and energy to the company. But it can consume, and so it's one of those lives I wouldn't wish on anyone. But when you really are an entrepreneur, there's no other road. And so we have actually an online quiz to take to see maybe if you're wired that way. Like when you take the ACT and you fill out all of those questions, for me, it came back and showed I should be a teacher and a lawyer. And I was a teacher and a lawyer before I ever started Counsel on Call. And so it was with that in mind. And then the other is we have something called a pre-flight program. And it's for people that haven't quit their day job or haven't quit school and come through the program and really vet it and really see, are you really solving a problem that people value enough to pay enough that you can really have profitability, assuming you want to do a for-profit business versus a nonprofit business. And so, and if it's nonprofit, it's the same thing. Do people value enough that they'd want to give their time and their money to help your vision succeed? And so there are different ways to see before you completely take a plunge. And so I would say, don't go and borrow money until you've really vetted, and whether that's from your parents or whether that's from friends or whether that's a bank, until you really have vetted to see, is this a business that you believe in enough that you're willing to sacrifice so much in order to see that idea become a reality? And is it something other people truly value?
Yeah. So COVID has affected everybody in so many unique ways. But how has COVID affected entrepreneurs' abilities to start companies and your ability to help them? And how have you and other entrepreneurs adapted to this new market?
Now, that's a great question. As far as we as an organization, we are fortunate to be a part of Google for Startups. Tech facilities. And so I'm on a listserv, or a few of us are on in our organization are on a listserv with people all over the world. And so we saw this coming and we saw it hitting other parts of the world and knew it was only a matter of time. And so our organization moved to virtual first. I believe it was the second week of March, where all of our programs were put online and we didn't miss a program. And for that matter, we actually increased our programming, and we also wanted to increase our audience to a lot of our programs to the entire entrepreneurial community, such as, questions back then. Remember, guys, we had just had a tornado. And so we had really been working with people in our community, small businesses and entrepreneurs who had lost everything. And they were coming and using our facility. And so they could have power and internet so that they can make payroll. And, you've gone from that right into a pandemic. And so when we were told to shut down by the mayor, obviously we did, but we had all of our programming online, and then we extended it, such as what is a PPP loan and who qualifies and how can you get funding, and working with the chamber and other partners in our community to be able to provide information to everyone. And then as we moved through it, we started in May. I guess we were sitting in April, of course, virtually, and decided entrepreneurship is about solving problems. And gosh, we have a lot of problems. I would call them challenges, not problems, but we have a lot. And at the same time, entrepreneurs usually wear rose-colored glasses and are dreamers. And so you're trying to imagine what things can look like or how they can look better. And so we created something called a Pitch for Good series. And in May, we did Pitch for Good Pandemic Edition. And we were really fortunate. One of MBA's board members, Eddie George, was one of our celebrity judges, as well as Kix Brooks and Roger Saffold and another gentleman out of Alabama. And we had over 150 entrepreneurs in our community that were creating solutions to solve the challenges that we were all dealing with. And, one was actually a student, and it was a sanitation business, going out and finding the patent or getting permission to be able to use the, cleaning service that could kill the COVID germs. And again, it was just such a rewarding experience to be able to see the community come together. And that's what entrepreneurs do. And so we have continued that, each month. We missed June, but we did it in May. And then, and the winners would get grant money. And we don't have a lot. We're a nonprofit, but we were able to get a few donors. and they were able to get grant money. And then one also gets a scholarship to an EC program. And so we've done several of those. And so what it does is it allows us and the community, we'll have 150 plus people watch and vote, and it allows everybody to see, and hopefully it gives them hope to see such innovation that is truly going on in our community. And so I think for COVID, in some ways it's very challenging, but I always said as a business owner, the difficult times were often when it gave you a chance to reflect inward on your business and really adapt it to what it's going to look like when you come out. So after September 11th, we were a better business. After the economic crisis of '08, we were a much better business. And so I think the same is true for a lot of small businesses in the entrepreneurial community. On the other hand, it's challenging. And so we've actually, if you go to the EC website, there is it's called Renew Nashville, and it's a program. And I would say any entrepreneur, small business negatively impacted by COVID to please go and sign up. And so whether that means they need to meet with accountants, lawyers, website designers, we are working with people on how to be able to communicate via video, to be able to reach customers. So, and then we also have a speaker series coming, and it's already lined up. And then we have one-on-one office hours. So again, community is just coming together to help the small business and entrepreneurial community as we get through this challenging time.
Yeah. So obviously it sounds like there's just so many resources to help all these people that come to Entrepreneur Center. But what about, have there been any resources that have helped you personally, like through your journey?
Sure, that's a great question. And quite honestly, it's why I am where I am. And that it was individuals, it was entrepreneurs. I do think Nashville is a unique city between all of our academic institutions, our creative music and entertainment community, obviously the healthcare community, but you realize a lot of these businesses were started by entrepreneurs. And we have such an entrepreneurial spirit. I think it's in our tapestry. And for me, it was truly gentlemen and women that I just called. And a lot of them did not know me. And they were willing to take the meeting, and they were willing to meet with me. And, you know, one actually met with me every quarter and taught me about goal setting for the business and then measuring whether I was achieving it. And, you know, so it would be individuals that really gave me their time. And then for my business, honestly, the local legal community, because I would go in and say, all right, I've got this idea, I've got this business I'm doing, but I want to make sure it's truly a resource for the legal community. And lawyers in our community that were more than willing to give me their time to talk it through and talk about it. So honestly, it was individuals willing to give of their time to help me. And the Entrepreneur Center, that's what it is. It's successful business people and entrepreneurs giving time and money to help that next generation to create this circle of giving that I think is so powerful in our community.
Yeah, I'm so glad the community is so helpful.
Yeah. So what kind of networking and marketing have you done, both for Hanner Clarke Handbags and the Entrepreneurs Club?
Yeah, I mean, marketing and networking, you know, those are broad terms, and they're definitely hot topics. You know, Hanner Clarke is an online retail, and so that's a completely different. That's very different. Now, that being said, Kathleen at K. McCartney here locally carries them. And so I've been very fortunate that she likes them and has had them in her store so people could actually see them and touch them and try them on. But really, it's all through Instagram, social media. And so it really is a social media and marketing effort. As far as, sorry. Sorry, guys.
It's all good.
Hold on one second. We've got someone tangled in the lap. Isn't that right, buddy? You got all tangled up in the lamp. There we go. See, one day there's going to be a Zoom bloopers, and that would be on it. But yes, the dog tangled up in the lamp as he's trying to get close. But yeah, I think, and as far as the EC, it really has been through speaking opportunities. It's been through one-on-one. When I started the EC October 20th of 2019 up through mid-January, I met with over 300 people locally, business people, entrepreneurs, business people, which include CEOs and executives with some of our big businesses, small businesses, investor community, our staff, our former staff, our board members, our former board members, just trying to understand what is the impact and value this organization has on our community 2020 moving forward. And then obviously, blogs and, all of the different ways you connect with people online, but then also just one-on-one and then newsletters. And then, the sad part is the EC was the community meeting place, and we can't wait to be back to be in that connection place and, and having events where hundreds of people can be, and then you can network in person. But we actually do create through different technology tools, the ability for people to network. And, whether like last week we had our in-flight, which is our local entrepreneurs, regardless of industry, and they did their showcase. And so, but beforehand, we had an opportunity for them to network. And then afterwards, we had an opportunity for them to sort of set up their booths. And then potential customers and or investors could go in and meet with them in their booths. And so again, it's, making sure we understand what the latest and greatest technology tool is that allows for networking and gathering in this socially distant world.
When Matthew and I started the podcast, I think one of our main goals was to connect with like the local entrepreneur community.
Yeah.
And I think you are just like the best at that. So it's again, just really awesome to have you here and hear all this because you connected with hundreds of people.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Will.
Yeah. So to what do you attribute your success?
That's a good question. Faith, to be very candid. And then honestly, people, being fortunate to have Greg as my partner. And he is an amazing partner in every sense of the word. Have children that challenge me and help hopefully make me better and broader. And then also people that were willing to come and work with me. I mean, Patty Wise, who was an MBA parent, she came to work with us way back when and still works with the company today, and others that really believed in the company and what we were trying to do, and they came on board. And then anytime you're with an entrepreneurial company, I always say you've got to be ready for the roller coaster or the waves of change, because if you're really good, you're going to constantly change. And so having people that not only believed in the vision and believed in the mission, but also were capable of riding the roller coaster and or the waves of change. And most are still with the company today, which thrills me. I'm on their board, but we have another CEO, which again, it was time for the company to bring in an experienced CEO, and me, the entrepreneur that always creates new things, time for me to step back and let someone else lead. And so, again, it's people. It's in my personal life and professional life that have surrounded and believed in me and or us, and then worked every day to help us move forward personally and professionally.
Thank you. So what's the best advice you've ever received?
Yeah, I was fortunate after law school to clerk for a federal judge. And I remember, and he was just an amazing human being, by far the most influential person on me professionally. Quite frankly, maybe the best advice is when I told him I was thinking of getting married and moving to Nashville, he told me I need to go work for a guy named Jim Doremus. And so I ended up going to Doremus and Trager, and I got to work with Jim Doremus, Byron Trager, and Paul Nye. And I was able to get married and move to Nashville. So that might be. But he also really stressed always work to keep the playing field level. And that's something that has resonated with me, and for a lot of different reasons. And I think that's one thing that, I think that's one thing that I try to hold personally and professionally.
Thank you. So what is your greatest strength and weakness?
Well, sometimes I think it's best to ask others that type of question. My weaknesses are probably easier for me to identify. One might be the challenge of sometimes drinking the Kool-Aid or believing the press, so to speak, to think that you have answers or you have all the answers, and that oh, I've got it. And then really taking a breath and slowing down and being patient to listen to all, and really coming up with the right answer versus mine. So impatience might be one. And then also sometimes, So, and then as far as strengths, hopefully it's being able to connect and communicate with people at all different phases of life, and being able to really listen to where they are. And so they sort of, the strength and the weakness sort of, as you can see, I'm still working on both, because again, it's about hopefully being able to truly connect and listen to people, and not put myself in a little bubble. And so I think that is a strength in some ways, is that I'm willing, I want to talk to you boys. I mean, I think that's a strength.
Definitely. So what best motivates you, and how have your entrepreneurial motivations changed since you first started?
Wow, good question, guys. What best motivates me? What best motivates me? I think for others to succeed. And I know that sounds really Pollyanna, but I think as a mother of 4 children, all you really want is for your children all you really want is to leave this little piece of our world a little better than we found it. And you hope and pray that you pass that on to your children. And so when I see our kids trying to go out and do good and do well, that's motivating. The same for entrepreneurs, and the same for, students that I might have taught, or the same for, to me, that's motivating. That's what gets you up every day. It's hopefully knowing that you're making some little impact that is going to be a positive difference in someone's lives, even though you may not have any idea what it is at the time. And then, so I think that's what motivates me.
It's such a great thing to be motivated by.
Yeah.
It's really inspirational. So what is your next big goal or landmark that you're shooting for?
Oh gosh. I think it's to, again, the Entrepreneur Center, trying to create a sustainable organization that in 5 to 10 years, people are going to say, wow, that person came through the Entrepreneur Center. There's someone I definitely want to do business with, invest in, and or meet. And it be all about the Entrepreneur Center and the programs and the services, and that it really is seen as a connector for the Nashville entrepreneurial community through all phases of that life cycle.
That's wonderful. So where can our audience connect with you online?
Sure. Well, the EC, it's ec.co, not com, ec.co. And then also on LinkedIn are probably the 2 easiest places to connect with me.
Okay. We will make sure to put both of those in the bio of the video.
Great. And then you have my email, Will. And so
yes.
I think it's on the website, but that's there too.
Yeah. We'll include everything. So
okay.
I think that's all our questions. So
Yes, thank you
thank
so
you
much
so
for your
much
time.
for your
You were
time.
welcome.
We really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Matthew. And well,
Yes,
it's
thank you
nice
so
meeting both
much.
of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.